First of all, have you had a chance to speak with the president yet this morning?
Not this morning. I was with him all throughout the day yesterday. I was with him several times before the debate, the whole hour leading in, with him on Air Force One. And I can tell you, he is quite happy, quite enthused. He believes America has endorsed his performance at the debate because it was a debate on the merits. And when you debate on the merits, there's a clear victor, and that's President Trump.
Was there a point that he wanted to make last night at the debate that he felt like he didn't get a chance to do it?
He felt like he got through almost everything. Look, I think the American people would have loved to have heard more about the economy. It's unfortunate that in the course of these debates, we had no discussion on abortion. We had very little discussion of the Supreme Court, very little discussion of the Second Amendment. So unfortunately, because the Commission on Presidential Debates really decided to cancel the second debate, what that meant is the American people were deprived of a lot of information that they were entitled to.
One question on the economy.
Yeah.
My colleagues are funny. It's just obviously the president did talk a lot last night about the stalemate between him and Pelosi on a stimulus deal. And here we are, another end of the week. Any other indications that we may see any signs of a deal from either Malaysia or?
We are very hopeful, but at the same time, and I've made this point before, that Democrats have been fundamentally unserious on stimulus. Very little talked about, other than from your outlet, Fox News, that throughout this, including as recently as 2 days ago when I checked with the chief of staff, in the current pending Democrat stimulus proposal is stimulus checks for illegal immigrants, is protection from deportations, and a review of current illegal immigrants in custody and removing those some into the interior of the country. It's not often discussed, but for as recently as 3 days ago, for that to be part of the stimulus proposal for the American people, that should tell you just how serious Democrats are. Yeah. I would just say stay tuned.
Can I just follow up on that? The removal of Sudan from the state-sponsored list of terrorism, is there any kind of impact to the dynamic within the Nile Dam negotiation with Egypt and Ethiopia?
Look, we'll have a statement out shortly for you related to Sudan.
A follow-up, Kayleigh, on stimulus talks. Have you gotten any indication, positive indications from Senate Republicans that they would be willing to go along with the kind of spending that they've gotten indication?
I think there are many Republicans that would, and ultimately we think if you reached a compromise deal, that Republicans would not be the impediment. This is step by step, and step one is finding common place with Democrats, but we believe, just like Republicans came on board for the prior three deals, that they would to this time around. But again, step first is finding common place with Democrats. Yep. Jeff?
Do you have any sense of a timeline for that now? Obviously, we're just a little less than 2 weeks away from the election.
Yeah, it's getting closer, and unfortunately, as we get closer, Nancy Pelosi sits more entrenchedly and staunchly in her position of depriving the American people of needed relief because she doesn't want President Trump to have an electoral victory. It gets harder as we get closer, but rest assured, Secretary Mnuchin, the Chief of Staff, are trying each and every day, but she's making it harder by not budging even 1 inch from her position that she's had since, I guess, March at this point.
Does the president believe he has the
Or May, I
time-
should say.
Does the president believe he has the time to change the trajectory of the race, setting aside his performance last night? 48.5 million people have already voted.
The president doesn't need to change the trajectory, of the race, because the trajectory of the race is strongly in his favor with a massive tailwind behind him. Look, I think you can see it in early voting. When you look in Michigan, the fact that we're 2 points ahead in requested ballots, 2 percentage points, it's actually NBC's tracker that you can go and look at. Republicans don't routinely match early vote of Democrats, and we're seeing that in states, and we believe that's more indicative of where the country stands than any of the public polling out there that sometimes is designed to shape public opinion rather than gauge it. Anything else? Yep. Ouija?
Thank you. Given how confident the president is of wrongdoing with the Biden family, has he asked Attorney General Barr to open an investigation?
No, he
Or
has.
will he?
No, he has not. The president wants these things to be looked into, and the media is really the avenue that should be doing that. At this point, it's up to the Attorney General as to how he pursues this and the FBI, but we just want justice. We want the American people to have a full picture of what's at stake. And thank you, by the way, for asking about this, because not often do we get questions about the Joe Biden, Hunter Biden situation. But at this point, it's really the media that needs to look into this, because, we're 12 days out and the American people, 11 days out, the American people deserve answers.
Kayleigh, can I ask you about several over the next little while. Number one, what did you think he gets from them? What difference do they make? Number two, have you thought about changing the approach at all, given the cases are rising again? Is it time to pull back on rallies or change them at all, or is the White House not considered that?
So first, let me back up and say we always provide masks. We encourage them to be worn. We have hand sanitizer available. You have a right to go to a political rally in this country, much like there was a women's march last weekend here in D.C. that people attended. We've seen protests. People have attended. We also know, by the way, a lot more about this disease than we did when we had to shut down the country. We know young people are less affected by it. Of course, they can contract COVID, but they tend to endure it much better than the older population does. So we know a lot more about this. Ultimately, it's the choice of the American people whether to come out and engage in political speech as the First Amendment allows them to do.
But why does the president want to still do rallies, given the threat?
Because, look, this is the most important election in American history because what's at stake in this election are jobs, the economy, recovering from COVID. He believes he's the best person to do that. He thinks he has a 4-year proven track record of that. And 11 days out from an election, the American people deserve to hear from their leaders. And it's very interesting that you've had the other candidate been sequestered away for 5 days. President Trump's been out and about, and I think if you're going to not fight for the vote of the American people, I don't think you're going to fight for the American people as president. Thank you guys so much, and I'll encourage the president to try to gaggle with you guys at some point today during the trip.